Welcome in. It's me again, Fitzy, back with another episode of the Why Do Boys Make podcast. I am joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Mike Corbett. Corby, how you doing this week?
Fitzy, hi. Thank you. I'm feeling pretty great on this Tuesday. I won again 2 weeks in a row. Everything's coming up Millhouse for me.
I always thought you were the Bart Simpson of the league, but if you're the Millhouse here, that's great too. We are joined by a special third guest today, the very first guest on the Why Do Boys Make podcast, the winner of the raffle, Brandi St. Romain. Brandi, welcome in.
Wow, hi. It's great to be here on this lovely podcast.
Yeah, we're obviously honored to have you in here. Fiance of a co-host, but we're going to try to play this very straight and narrow, very level-headed. I will not be the bad cop today. And I'm going to start things off here with a quick guest interview. I'll start with the first question. Corby, we'll kick it over to you next. And my first question is, call it investigative journalism. Brandi, you are the newest in this league, and you've had quite the journey to this point, both physically, moving across the country, and emotionally, joining a fantasy football league with your fiance that people take seriously enough to make a podcast and a series of short videos about. So with all that being said, I'd like your outsider's perspective. Why do boys play games?
Oh, you know what? That's a great question. Why do boys play games? I think if I had to boil it down to one thing, it's just the competition. I think there's a lot of ego going around.
I think you nailed it there, Brandi. Competition is the heart of fantasy football. Corby, over to you.
We're all gamers here, and I know you are also a gamer. I'm well aware that you play a lot of Stardew Valley. So as somebody not versed in Stardew Valley, but likes to romance characters in video games, who is the best partner to have in that game and why?
I guess it depends on what you're looking for in a partner. The first time I had a partner in Stardew Valley, it was Shane. And for those of you who have played Stardew Valley, you'll know that that's a terrible, terrible decision because he is an alcoholic. So I guess to answer your question, the best character, you know what? I'm going for Sebastian. That's who I've been interested in lately. Yeah, maybe it's because he's a software developer or he likes weird emo music.
Oh,
that's what I have right now.
Interesting.
I find that very interesting because I actually see those characters as the two sides of Corby, really. I wouldn't label Shane an alcoholic, really. I think that's putting a label on him. On the one hand, his storyline brings him to stop drinking beer entirely. As you romance him, he puts the bottle down and he picks up the proverbial shovel and gets to work. However, that doesn't stop his non-romance scenes being in the bar, sipping a beer every minute of every day when you're not in the middle of romancing him. So he might just be putting on a front for the player. As a Stardew follow-up, because I am a bit of a gamer myself in that one, roughly how many times have you started a new file?
Oh, no. So I just started a new file during the summer. When I have free time from school, I like to start a new file. It never carries over because, you put 60 hours in and then you take a big break. And then what do? You go back to it after 6 months. Like, you can't do that. I'm probably at 6 or 7 files would be my estimate. And each of them have certainly more than 40 to 50 hours in them.
Interesting. I'll go rapid fire here to close it out on Stardew. Have you ever dated the entire town at once?
I have not.
I guess I'm the only charlatan on the call today. Have you ever sided with Jojo Mart?
I have sided with Jojo Mart, and I encourage anyone who hasn't to do it because it's a great way to get everything done really quickly and not have to wait for the seasons to collect your produce and finish the community center. I've done a Jojo Mart run one time.
Very cool. Very cool. And my last question, have you ever fully planned out your farm before planting your fruit trees? Because that's impossible, right? Nobody can do that, right?
I feel like I have. Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like my farm is always pretty planned out. And I usually plan my crops, plan everything, have everything in order. And then my fruit trees are planted. And the first day that fruit can, be ready to harvest from them, on the first day of each season, it's there to harvest.
The mental capacity to plan such things is beyond me. Big props to you for that.
Thank you.
I would like to keep going with the rapid fire questions. So we're going to play a quick game of overrated, underrated. I'm going to give you an item, not even an item. It could be anything. And you just say overrated or underrated. If you want to elaborate, you can. If not, that's fine too. Let's start off with maraschino cherries.
They're very overrated. Unless it's like the Luxardo ones. Those are good.
What do you think about seasons?
I think seasons are rated appropriately. They're pretty cool. It's cool to have seasons.
What if I told you you were wrong? No, next up, we've got Terminator 1.
I think it's probably underrated. I really like Terminator 1. People usually talk about Terminator 2. I like Terminator 2 as well, but maybe Terminator 1 doesn't get as much love as it deserves.
My next one for you, and I had to check the pronunciation on this for you, Brandi. I beieve I'm going to get it right. Beignets.
Beignets are horribly overrated.
False.
Yeah, I'm going to get a lot of flack from Corby. And I mean, Ashley doesn't watch or listen to this. So, but yeah, they're overrated. It's just fried dough and powdered sugar. And I'll never understand why people eat the fried dough thing. I don't get it.
This is a safe space for beignet hate. It's okay, Brandi.
Thank you.
What do you think about cleaning the gutters? Overrated? Underrated?
I wouldn't know because I've never done it. That's your job.
Oh, a little bit of trouble in paradise on the pod. You hate to see it. And finally, what do you think about podcasts?
Podcasts are really popular.
Being popular means they could be very highly rated. Does that?
Maybe they're a little overrated. I don't know. I like podcasts. I definitely don't think they're underrated. Yeah, maybe they're appropriately rated as well.
We can edit that out in post, right?
Yeah, we can certainly nix that. Next question. How do you feel about your team headed into week 4?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. I've had a couple unlucky weeks, but I like my team. I think I have a good team, as everyone does. But I'm feeling pretty good headed into week 4.
Okay. As a follow-up question, do you think Allen Robinson's lack of production is directly tied to the fact that Matt Nagy is a fucking idiot?
I don't know what else it could be. Really, I was riding on Allen Robinson a lot, and I know it's still early. I definitely want to see what happens in the upcoming weeks with him.
I too love to ride on Allen Robinson
like a warm blanket. Now, Brandi, keeping it with your team here, you chose to have a picture of yourself as your team picture. That is definitely brave, and it certainly stands out. But if you wanted to change it up, fit the standard fantasy football format, I've got a couple ideas I want your feedback on. And I'll direct your attention to the screen here. Corey in the house.
Yeah, Corey in the house is pretty good. It's very good, actually.
Sure. How about Hey Darnold? He is a football head after all.
I think I like this one more than the last one.
Good. And the last one here, I have to admit, this one I did not make. I just Google image searched it. What do you think about Noah Fart?
Yeah, this one's not for me. Sorry.
Oh, God, what?
This one is just for Corby.
It's a little too much for me, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Fair enough. So we'll get to this later on, but I'm glad you're open to new ideas at least.
Sure.
The final question that I have for you today, Brandi, is what is it about full red wines, such as Shiraz, that make them taste awful?
Oh. Well, if you want the real answer, I think it's probably because of the tannins. I know that Corby really doesn't like the tannins in the wine. It's that thing in it that makes it feel like it's just sucking up all of the moisture from your mouth at one time. I feel like that's why people don't like red wine.
Speaking of sucking it up, let's head to the Pick'em recap to see how things went in week 3. Now, I'll start things off with a quick recap. We had a lot of parity in the league last week. In fact, we had a very tight spread between the highest and lowest score of the week. Every matchup we had felt close. In fact, I ran the numbers. Not since week 2 of the 2016 season have we had a high score to low score spread so small, when Chris P famously put up a score of 172.74 and good old Mike Boxo finished with 131.06. We were 2 passing yards this week away either on Taylor's team, bringing his score up, or off of Corby's team, you had the high score, bringing yours down, we would have had the tightest spread of all time in this league. So it really was a remarkable week for parity and a lot of close matchups here. And the first matchup we're going to recap is Mike and Chris P. Corby, why don't you take things away here?
Mike, another brutal loss. I'm sorry that you're having a rough go at it. At least Saquon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are starting to look alive. I know you changed your name to your last year, but you'll be back. You always are. Chris P, welcome to the 2-1 club, baby.
Yeah, good to be part of the 2-1 club. For Mike first, yeah, it's not the first time you've named your team my last year. But last time you ended up changing it. You finished the year on the Cleveland show. So I'm pulling for a good comeback from Mike this year, if not in the win column, at least in the fun column. Mike, I do think you'll get it right. 148 is a good score in a week like this, and I'll pick you later, I promise. On Chris P's side, holy crapoly. Matt Stafford is the 9th ranked player in all of fantasy, and he's Chris P's 3rd ranked player behind Kirk Cousins at number 8. And get this, Mike Williams is the number 6 overall.
Yeah, that is killing me right now.
Wow. This is the team that last week I called out as having a bunch of startable bench players too. We could be looking at a 13-1 team right here.
His team is looking really solid after that Kirk Cousins trade, for sure. Next matchup, we've got Corby versus Adam, where I won by 9 points.
Yeah, I didn't have too much here other than Najee Harris had 19 targets. I'll say that again, 19 targets.
Literally like 5 days after I shit talk the guy, he then gets 14 catches and 102 yards. That was beautiful.
We definitely had a lot of curses on the show last week. I'll get to 1 or 2 more of those later on. But yeah, Adam, you had the highest score of all the losing teams and you still dropped to 0-3. Keep your chin up. You'll get that first win soon. Next up on my list here is T squared, Taylor versus Tyler. We were all on Tyler, Corby, Fitz, and the coin, and the glass cannon cracks. Taylor, the Arizona defense being your only scorer over 20, not a good omen. That said, let me be the first one to give big props to you saying to yourself, hey, I'm so good at fantasy that I'm going to handicap myself and keep Blake Bortles on my team. So I think that's actually a pretty swaggy move right there.
Well done there. For Tyler, you've got Cooper Kupp and you've got Adam Thielen. That really is all you need. And your bench guys that we shit talked are also coming to life in Jalen Reagor and Mecole Hardman.
This is part of the curse I was going to mention. A special shout out to this team proved me the most wrong last week because Jalen Reagor and Mecole Hardman both went for double digits. And I proclaimed of every player in the league last week that I would drop Peyton Barber. Tyler did, but he goes out and outscores all 3 of the running backs that I started combined by over 5 points. Peyton Barber, I'm so sorry. And yeah, Tyler, I mean, you've got Cooper Kupp. He's not just the top wide receiver in fantasy football. He's not only the most fun to watch. I call him Skinny Gronk. He is the number 1 player overall in our league scoring. You tie him up with, like you said, Adam, more touchdowns than DeAndre Hopkins, Thielen, and Patrick Mahomes. No wonder this team's 3-0. Great squad up and down.
Absolutely. Next matchup, we've got Eric versus Colin. We had Colin winning with me picking Colin, Fitzy picking Colin, and the coin also picking Colin. A little cleanup from earlier in the Corby versus Adam matchup. We had Corby picking Corby, Fitzy picking Adam, and the coin picking Adam. In terms of the Eric versus Colin matchup, again, another, like Fitzy said earlier, it was a close week. Colin puts up 152, even with Trevor Lawrence putting up 6.96. It's still a pretty decent week, to be honest with you. So I'm still afraid of Colin's team, even after the trade that he made.
After the team, and it's a Pyrrhic victory for Colin as Christian McCaffrey goes down. And it looks like Hunter Renfrow is going to take that roster spot, which is not a great trade for Colin, but still a solid W. And Brandi, I want to kick this one to you real quick. If you're Eric, defending champion, and you start the year 0-3, at what point do you enter a matchup thinking, this is a must win for me?
I think that I would be thinking that at like 0-2. I mean, like, I feel like 0-3 is, you really need to kick it into gear. No, I mean, nothing against Eric. I just mean that record, you don't want to be 0-3.
Oh, Brandi, I want you to just take back the nothing against Eric on this pod. We throw the takes around. So definitely, yeah. It's almost time to press the panic button for our reigning champ, even though the squad's looking all right. So it's a tough year for him for sure.
Eric, I just want to tell you, in my first year of fantasy football, I think I started the season at like 1-7. Then off the waiver wire, I picked up Josh Gordon and Nick Foles. Nick Foles goes on to score 40 points 2 weeks in a row. Josh Gordon, like 25 plus 3 weeks in a row. You've just got to find your Josh Gordon like I did, and you'll be right back on track.
I think that both Josh Gordon and Nick Foles are actually available right now. So check the waiver wire.
It won't be tomorrow.
Oh, that's fair. We're recording on Tuesday, as always. Next up, we had myself taking on Chris Cloud. We had a round of Fitzy, except for the coin, picking Chris Cloud. And Fitzy does eke out the win. I'll start here. Chris, you had this one in the bag until I turned on the TV with 6 minutes left in Monday Night Football and watched the garbage time points pile up. Your player's on the sideline. Jalen Hurts still in the game for some reason, still throwing for some reason. All I got to say is well played, and let that be a lesson to you, the coin.
Fitzy, like I said last week, I think your team is good. You still put up 159. It's a pretty solid score, even with that in single digits. So well done there. Final matchup of the week, we had Brandi versus Chris Colby, where we had Chris Colby winning and Fitzy and I picking Chris Colby and the coin sticking on Brandi's side. Brandi, any thoughts on the matchup?
You know, I was anticipating losing to Chris Colby's team at the beginning of the matchup, and I watched it very closely, and there was several points during the span of the games where I thought I was going to win, but that didn't happen. But I would like to thank the coin for picking me.
Yeah, all I have to say here is that, Chris Colby is the number one team in the league for a reason. It's a solid team doing solid team things. Brandi, you've still got a super deep team. We'll talk later about the picks next week.
So our total standings so far for the pick'em, we've got Fitzy at 13-5, Corby at 10-8, and the coin at 6-12.
Yeah, at some point here, we might need to have the coin be picking against the spread because we get to see the projections and the coin doesn't. So
that's very true.
Yeah, maybe we should take a tactical pause on that one next week and talk about how we can re-rank the coin going forward, because I want to feel scared that I'm going to have to give $100 to charity. That's the emotion that I want here, Corby.
Yep.
So
good idea.
That would be terrifying.
So looking forward to the matchups this week. First one on my screen, we're going to roll with Eric versus Chris Cloud. Corby, why don't you start things off here?
Yeah, sure. I think Eric's going to get back on track here. I think this is going to be the Jonathan Taylor breakout game that we've been waiting for, or I at least hope it is, because he's so fun to watch. Eric, you're 0-3. You got to start making moves. Fun fact, Eric has not made a single move this year. He's the only person in the league to not do it. So I feel like he's going to make a move here this week, pick up a good player, and he's going to get a W. I'm taking Eric.
I like that. We've got the battle of two gold-ranked members of the league in Eric and Chris Cloud. I love the wide receivers in this matchup. And in a week where it really could come down to Monday night, they've got two quarterbacks going against each other. Herbert versus Carr, and I'm going to lean with Herbert. Give me Chris Cloud this week. And not to be forgotten, the coin rolls with Eric.
Can I actually just say I want to pick Eric too. I'm just really rooting for him. He's 0-3. I think this is going to be his week.
Next matchup, Corby versus Chris Colby. I'm going to lead this one off as well. I feel a real stinker coming from my team. I don't know why. I just feel bad about this week. I got carried by Najee and Justin Jefferson last week. I don't know, something about my supporting cast that makes me feel yucky. So I think Chris's team is way too solid. So I'm giving Chris a W here.
Oh boy. I mean, this is a tough one. Every week it feels like I'm going to make a dear friend very disappointed either way I pick. Chris Colby, you've got the ultimate ground and pound combo with Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb plus Kyler Murray grounded and pounded as a quarterback. But I got to give this one to you, Corbo. You've got a solid squad. The wide receivers are a little bit weaker on Chris Colby's team. That's maybe the one weak spot on an otherwise very, very solid team. I'm going to lean toward you this week. And the coin agrees. The coin is going with Corby.
I think I have to disagree with both Fitzy and the coin. I think that Chris Colby is going to win this matchup. He has a solid team. And I think that if he beat me, then he can beat Corby.
All right, let's keep it moving now to Chris P versus Taylor. Brandi, could you start things off for this one here?
Yeah, I'm going to just have to go with Chris Patton.
You are in good company because the coin agrees. And if you heard me gushing in the last segment about how stacked this team is, you're not going to be surprised. Picking Chris P here. But again, if Taylor's team is healthy this weekend, I won't be surprised if he goes from the lowest score of the week to the highest. Home run hitting team for sure.
Yeah, I think this is going to be another close matchup. I think the injuries on both sides with Deontay Johnson and AJ Brown are going to hamper both scores. But I still don't think Taylor has the depth in order to make up for his, like you said, unhealed, not healthy team. So I'm taking Chris P as well. Next matchup here, we've got Mike versus Brandi.
So, Mike, in the last segment, I made a promise to you. I said I'd pick your team right. But then I looked at the matchup and I looked at Brandi's team and then I looked at your team. And I think the nicest thing I can say is that I like your RB2 better than Brandi's RB2. But that's not quite enough to make that a pick for me. Brandi, I'm rolling with you this week.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm also rolling with myself. I think everyone should roll with themselves always.
I'm also taking Brandi. Mike, for some reason, I still believe in your team. I think it's great. Like I said earlier, Saquon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are starting to figure themselves out. But Robbie Anderson sucks. And I know as soon as you bench that guy, he's going to start popping off. So I feel like you're cursed. Sorry, I'm taking Brandi.
It is true. Some people are just unlucky at fantasy football. It takes a lot of luck. And Mike, I feel like at least this year, if not maybe this decade, it's not been your time. Although you got to take some solace because the coin believes in you. Next matchup here is Tyler versus Fitzy. Corby, could you start things off for this matchup?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a crazy high scoring matchup. There's something, I don't know why, something about it. I think it's just your wide receivers that I'm in love with. I think they're going to score so many points every week. The only concern I have with you is, are you really going to start Trey Sermon?
He's sneaky good, Corby. Of course I'm going to start Trey Sermon.
Well, in that case, I'm taking Tyler. I think his top-heavy team scores so many points that he's able to support his supporting cast that I thought was bad, which is apparently good. So give me Tyler.
All right. I looked at this matchup and at first I saw Tyler is projected to lose by 15. And I thought that doesn't make any sense. And good news, it doesn't make any sense. Once Tyler sets his lineup and puts Dalvin Cook back in over Madison, he's going to be projected to lose by 2 points. I bet he switches out his defense. Raiders going up against the Chargers. Probably not going to roll with them. He's probably going to be projected to win by the time kickoff comes. And I am rolling with Tyler.
Ooh, I think I'm going to roll with you, Fitzy.
Brandi, I appreciate that. Even though I picked against you last week, it feels good to feel the love. You are with the coin on this pick. The coin is picking Fitzy, which, given the fact the coin is 6-12 on the year, doesn't make me feel great, but I'll take what I can get. Speaking of taking what we can get, we've got Adam versus Colin for our final matchup of the week. And I think this could be the matchup of the week. Corby, why don't you?
Without a doubt. This
right?
is what I am looking forward to this weekend.
Especially if Adam can get the Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen stack working out versus Houston. This is going to be a shootout. Even so, I'm picking Colin partly as an apology for last week. Last week, I didn't realize you were so versed in your Christian mythology, name dropping Mount Ararat. It partly just because I also think that Colin is going to win this matchup, but it's a close one, and this is going to be a fun one to watch.
I actually think that Adam can win this. He can get a high-scoring game from OBJ this week with Minnesota just constantly pouring on points. And although AJ Green is a walking corpse, he is apparently a startable player in fantasy. And I think the zero wide receiver strategy is going to burn Colin at some point. The only concern I have is if Adam does lose, will he become the Joker? I'll take Adam.
I certainly think that Adam can win this matchup, but I'm going to pick Colin because I'm scared of him.
That's great.
And the coin fears no man. We are rolling with Adam for the coin. All right, so that finishes up our week 4 preview. Very excited for this weekend. And we're going to dip really quickly toward our mailbag segment. We're skipping it this week. And we're changing formats for next week because rather than answering your questions, we want you to answer our question in the comments. Corby, what is our first question going to be for the league this week?
That's right, folks. If you were in charge of the squad, what would you name Brandi's team? Leave a comment below.
Such a good question there. We got a couple good examples, but I'm very excited to see what we come up with as a hive mind for Brandi's team.
And who knows, maybe if you leave the best comment, you might be chosen as the next guest of the podcast.
Something that subjective just might work. And if you heard my voice change, you already know that it's time for Bets of the Week.
Let's fucking go.
All right, quick recap. First, I want to clean up something that happened from week 1 into week 2, where we had a bet about Bryan Edwards getting more receiving yards than Jarvis Landry. And he did, because Jarvis Landry got injured partway through the game, but Bryan Edwards wins a bet, bringing us to 3-2 in favor of Fitzy on the year at the start of last week. Corby, tell us what happened last week.
Our first bet was total 200-point teams this week, meaning a team would score 200 points. Fitzy took the under at 0.5 and won.
Next, I bet that Trevor Lawrence would go over 2.5 touchdowns passing. Corby obviously won that one because that was a stupid bet. So congrats to you, Corby.
It was a shocker. I thought it was going to be a barn burner. The next bet we made was Javonte Williams versus Michael Carter / Tevin Coleman total yards. I won this bet because I took Javonte Williams. Javonte had 63 total yards. Michael Carter had 29 total yards. And Fitzy, how many total yards did Tevin Coleman have?
Tevin Coleman didn't play, and you look at the snap share, and Ty Johnson was on the field for most of the Jets snaps. I don't know what to think anymore, man. This team is worse than mine. For our final bet of the week, and I think our most fun bet of the week, we had an over-under 0.5 dunks in the lake at Otis. And I talked to Chris Colby prior to recording this podcast. Have not revealed the results yet to Corby or Brandi. Chris Colby made a sub bet without listening to the podcast, without being influenced, made a bet with somebody who was playing Pong with. He had lost a few in a row and said, man, I suck. If I lose this game, I'm going to jump in the lake. Let's cut to the video feed to see what happened next.
Chris, what happened?
I lost again. I fucking suck at beer pong.
How's that feel? That must feel good. It's got to be warm water, though, right?
Hey, listen, I'm going to bust your ass next game, though.
Is the water warm?
Don't look. Have you ever heard of major shrinkage?
Cool. Is the water warm?
No, it's cold. That's why I said the shrinkage thing.
Oh, all right.
Okay, great. Of course he fucking did it. Of course he did. Of course it was the referee that we decided would be my undoing. That's okay. He didn't know any better.
In his defense here, he had not listened to the podcast. He just jumped in the lake. Sometimes the stars align.
I thought we should also mention some updates on our season-long bets that we made. So the first, one of the ones that we had made was CeeDee Lamb versus Amari Cooper, season-long fantasy points. Currently, CeeDee Lamb has 50.8 fantasy points on the season, where Amari Cooper has 49.9 fantasy points on the season. We also have Jalen Waddle versus Bryan Edwards total touchdowns on the season from week 2 forward. We are neck and neck at 0.
That's going to be a real barn burner there, Corey.
Okay, I'll do the first bet.
All right. So new bets here. Lay them down for me, Corby. I want to hear this.
I bet that all of the players on my starting lineup will have more catches than all of the players on your starting lineup, Fitzy.
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. And knowing that, I might have to take Trey Sermon out of the lineup. Let me just quickly give a peek to my lineup. Yep, got pass catchers for sure. Let's jump over to Corby's team. Oh, so you're facing the ground and pound team, but your running backs, all they do is catch passes. DJ Moore has become a PPR god. If you can give me a 3.5 reception spread, I'll take the Fitzy side.
Yeah, okay.
Let's do it. All right, Corby, for my first bet of the week, I'm not sure if you knew this, but this week the Denver Broncos are playing against the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm going to bet you very similar to last week that the non-QBs for the Broncos are going to outrush the non-QBs for the Ravens. What say you?
No. I would also take the Broncos.
Brandi, a spot bet here. Would you take the other side?
Yeah, sure. I'll take the Ravens.
Let's make it a bet. We got a guest bet.
Let's go. That's awesome. I love that. Do you have another one, Fitzy? I don't even know how many you have.
I do. It's another season long. I love putting another one of these in the pot. Corby, I got a bum bet for you. A big bum bet.
I love bum bets.
Looking for more total yards from scrimmage this year. Josh Gordon or Le'Veon Bell?
Josh Gordon.
Josh Gordon?
Josh Gordon.
You know, I didn't actually even write down a side that I had to lean on. I just so wanted to make this bet that I'll take practice squad Le'Veon. Let's roll. Let's make it
go, dude. Where do you lean on that, Brandi? I know you're a huge Josh Gordon fan.
If I have anything to add to this bet, but I do want to make a bet of my own if I'm allowed to do that.
Okay,
absolutely.
Okay.
We're gonna do the buzzer system here. First one to put a reaction up on Zoom here is going to be able to make the bet.
This bet isn't for Corby. It's not for him. He
Not
can't.
for Corby.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he can make this bet because it's about him. So I would like to bet that Corby will spend over $5 fab dollars picking up Josh Gordon, and we'll get him when waivers clear.
I'll give an alternate bet back to you because it involves Corby. He's here. He's already predetermined in his head. He's probably already set his waivers. I'm just going to give an alternate one back to you, Brandi. Josh Gordon fab dollars over under 5.5.
I think I would take the over.
All right, I'll take the under. We'll open it up to the rest of the league.
Yeah.
And tell you what, if it is Corby who spends 6 and wins, I'll give you $5 for free. Just cuz.
Great.
Guess what? No one's getting him for $6 because I'm getting him for my maximum fab percent.
Yeah, what I told Corby earlier is that I was highly anticipating him spending 20 of his fab dollars on Josh Gordon. And if that is what it takes him to get him, then he will do it. And he will be hurt again.
He's got to beat out Byron Pringle for the 5th receiver spot. So we'll see what happens.
He's already beat out Tyreek. It doesn't matter. For my final bet of the week, Fitzy, I'm laying down a gauntlet. This is a weekend bet.
Okay.
I bet that I will drink more seltzer than you this weekend.
Oh, don't do this to me, Corby. You don't know the Costco pack that I got in the basement. I got a fresh pallet down there. That's.
Let me lay the rules.
Okay.
Starting at 5 p.m. on Friday, we start counting how much seltzer we drink. We close off at midnight on Sunday. Mixed drinks are allowed, but you can only count the content of the seltzer inside of the mixed drink. We're also counting it by the amount consumed, not number of cans or bottles. We're going by total volume or whatever that scientific is. Although not necessary, photographic proof may help.
I want to show you something. This is not for the rest of the people listening. This is just for you on the Zoom. This is what I have in front of me on my desk. This is just from 4 p.m. on. Corby, you don't know what you're doing here, do you? Let's make this a $10 bet and I'll take it.
Are you serious?
Absolutely, I'm going to win this. This is free money.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll do $10. Fine. Okay.
5 p.m.
Great.
Friday to Sunday at midnight. All right. I've never had an easier $10.
Corby, I think you're making a mistake here.
I like a challenge.
Now, before we sign off, I just want to thank Brandi St. Romain once again for being a guest on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been really fun. It's great to be here. Happy to be the first one. And gamers game on.
Player 2 defeated. Congratulations! This game's winner is Kirby.
All right, gang. This concludes episode 4 of the Why Do Boys Make Podcasts podcast. Don't forget to smash the living hell out of that like button. Subscribe and hit the bell as well. We want to see your answers to our question of the week in the comments down below. I'm Fitzy.
And I'm Corby.
And I'm Brandi.
And gamers, game on.